everybody. Welcome to the Hallmarkies podcast. And today we're doing another one of our romantic reading wrap-ups. And it's been 2 months since we did one, which seems a little crazy, but we're excited to be back. And I am film critic Rachel Wagner, and Bree is here.
Hey, everybody.
How are you doing?
I'm good. It is our time of year to thrive.
Yeah. Yes.
Can you believe it?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, it's been a couple of months since we have been able to talk, and I definitely missed it.
I know, me too. But I
Yeah.
mean, we also talk,
I'm right, right.
all the time. So,
But I miss talking books. It's always
I
fun.
know. Yeah. This is like the busy season of life where it's like, okay, how do I
Yeah.
read and also watch all the Christmas movies coming on TV?
Yeah, it's intense. But that's why I do have a quite a bit, but most of the books that I read were books that I read in August and September.
Okay.
Uh, not in October.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know about for you.
Um, yeah, I've read some stuff in October, so
Oh, good. Okay, good.
We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies merch store.
are you looking for that perfect gift for the postable, hardy, or hallmarky in your life?
What about getting that t-shirt or hoodie that will help you stand out at your next holiday party?
Now is the time to check out the Hallmarkies merch store.
Full of festive designs by artists like Jessica Miller, Carrie from Hallmark Comics, and more.
You can even have more than just shirts, but totes, cell phone cases, notebooks, mugs, and more.
And it isn't just Hallmark. We have designs for Anna Green Gables, Man from Snowy River, The Nanny, and more.
Every purchase at the merch store goes to help support the podcast and allows us to make the great content you know and love.
There are frequent sales, so go to tpublic.com/stores/hallmarkies or see the link in the description.
That's tpublic.com/stores/hallmarkies.
Well, we had our book of the month. This month is Pumpkin Everything by Beth Labonte. And this is an interesting book because I read it after having seen the movie. And I think that always is interesting because, instead of having your own kind of image for the characters, you can't help but have the image of the actors and everything in the movie,
Right. Yeah.
you know. And so sometimes that can be a good thing, and sometimes you can actually think that the movie is better. I don't know. How did you feel about the book in general, and what did you think about the movie, I guess, in comparison?
Okay, so I made the mistake of I was like halfway through the book, right? And then I'm pretty sure I caught COVID again. So I was like, okay, I'll just sit here and watch movies today. Like it's a sick day. And I was like, okay, I have pumpkin everything. It's fine. Let's watch this. And so I watched the movie like halfway through reading the book.
Uh-huh. Oh,
And
that's interesting.
I don't think that's a good idea either, to be honest. Because I was like, why did you change this about them? Like they're
Hmm.
just it's it's interesting because we've read books before that Hallmark adapted to movies, right? And we were like, okay, this is totally different. It's like loosely based.
Yeah.
And this one, like, there were a lot of similarities, but I think the tone of the movie is totally different from the book. And I kind of wish they would have stuck with the book.
Hmm. I don't know. I mean, I felt like their chemistry in the movie was so good that I think that I almost felt like the chemistry felt a little lacking for me in the book compared to what we got in the movie. But it's hard because how are you going to duplicate like actual real people that you're seeing, together,
Yeah, yeah,
uh,
yeah.
versus in the book. But I don't know, I just felt like the chemistry in the book was kind of flat, but yeah, they definitely have a more it's not a it's a little bit more silly, I would say, in the movie than in the book. Would you agree?
Yeah, in the I just wish that in the because in the book, it's like she's kind of nervous that people have read her book, right? She's like trying to figure out.
Yeah.
I kind of wish that they would have stuck with that. It just would have added a little bit of comedy, I guess, to the
Yeah.
movie. Because the movie was like super serious, and the grandfather was such a grump.
Yeah,
And
he really was. I mean, especially because if you think about the fact that he really could have killed people, crashing his car into the window of a popular restaurant,
yeah,
like that's not just some like little thing,
yeah, yeah, sure.
and they treated it kind of like it was like, oh, it's just, well, certainly he did treat it like it was, oh, just this little thing. I'm like, no, this person should not have a license, that's for sure.
It could have ended badly.
Yeah.
Which, granted, in the movie, it does show that like he does put it in reverse and like he thinks he's reversing, but it like shoots forward. So it was an accident, but yeah, his mentality and afterward and his attitude toward it, it was like, dude, you literally ran into a building where people were. It could
Hmm.
have ended really bad.
Yeah.
I don't know. That was an interesting choice, I think,
Hmm.
on behalf of
Yeah.
the writer.
Yeah, and I was surprised that kind of Hallmark even did that.
Oh yeah,
That
I definitely thought they were gonna change that.
hmm I thought they'd come up with something else. And if people haven't seen the movie or read the book, like basically the story is that she was she left home out of Autumnboro, and to become a famous writer, and she ends up writing these vampire books. Excuse me. And she ends up writing these vampire books, and they become very popular. And she has to then go home after her father gets in this, or grandfather gets in this accident, and she's trying to help him to get into like assisted living or something, and he is very resistant, to put it mildly. And I've always kind of joked that like there's a certain point in every human's life where they decide, I'm going to be cuddly or I'm going to be curmudgeon. And the old people in my life, some of them chose curmudgeon and some of them chose cuddly.
Right.
And I don't know what I will choose. We'll see. But the grandpa in this book slash movie definitely chose curmudgeon.
Yeah. He's such a just grumpy old man. Like he owns the store, pumpkin everything. And I again, I'm thinking of the movie now because
It's hard. It's hard.
it's hard. Yeah, it's hard. And like he was hoping secretly that she would always take over the store, but that's not where her life went. Like that's not the path she chose. So he's just like, I think, bitter and resentful. And but at least in the movie, you see him, be sweet at the end.
Mhm.
So
Well, and nobody has read her books, which to me totally tracks. Totally
yeah,
checks out, because I most of the people in my life rarely, if ever, listen to an episode of my podcast, which is
right.
fine. They
Yeah.
they're busy, and that's fine. But yeah, I think that's actually pretty common, especially if they know that they might be kind of in it, or they might
Yeah.
suspect they'd be in it. Then you'd be more hesitant to not read it. And also, if they both Kit and the grandpa are kind of resentful of the books because they think that took her away.
Yeah. My big question is who at Hallmark was digging through Kindle Unlimited to find this book to adapt it?
Yeah. It's really true. How did they find this obscure? I guess they were looking for fall. Maybe there's just not that many fall reads. I don't know.
Yeah. I the other day when I watched A Kiss Met Christmas, I saw that it was adapted by a Lori Wilde novel. And I was like, yeah, last time Rachel and I read a Lori Wilde that Hallmark adapted into a movie. It
Yeah, I
was
mean,
nothing like the book. And I was like, this movie is obviously nothing like the book because the book is literally set in Texas and the movie is set in Maine. So we'll just go with loosely, very loosely
yeah.
based.
Well, I mean, especially in that, yeah, the Lori Wild one. Nothing. I mean, except for the fact there is like briefly a veil mention
Yeah.
in the book.
But I was like, who at Hallmark loves Lori Wilde? Like, rightfully so, wonderful author, but like, who are you just like randomly going through their great aunt's romance novels or
Mhm.
whatever? Like, oh, this is our next adaptation right here. I mean, hit
Yeah,
us up,
for real.
Hallmark. We have recommendations. We have recommendations.
Yes. So, what did you think of Kit and Amy? Do you think that the book did Second Chance Romance well?
um, I did. Again, it's hard because I watched the movie halfway through the book. So
Uh-huh.
by the time I got and I like wanted to, I waited a couple days to pick the book back up because I was trying to like not think of the movie while I was reading it. But I mean, I think it did. You know, it's this book is very on brand, I think, with what Hallmark would want to put on screen. So girl comes back home because
Yeah.
whatever reason, here's the guy that she left behind. Like it felt very on brand for what we kind of want and expect.
Yeah, I said in the movie recap that it felt like old school Hallmark to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, the girl coming back from the city, small town, all the fall stuff, and pumpkin everything. And I kind of liked that. I mean, I like there's a reason why I started watching Hallmark. I like old school Hallmark. And in a way it's kind of refreshing. Like I like all the new stuff too, but it's nice every once in a while when they throw in something old school too.
Agree. Yeah. This felt
Yeah.
very throwback fall harvest,
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, the whole name of the town is Autumnboro.
Autumn Burrow. Right.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how this pumpkin everything store could really stay in business. I mean, I guess pumpkin spice latte is super popular PSL. Uh and but it just seems like year round.
Yeah,
People
it's such a
enough into
fantasy,
pumpkin.
right? Like, come on now. Like, I mean, they live in what? Is it New Hampshire or Vermont?
It was something like that, yeah. New
Yeah.
England.
So like after I'd say what November, I'm sure it's like freezing cold, the pumpkins are done, like it's time to move on. So it's like I was thinking the same time, like, how do they survive after this? But it's just I think that fantasy of like this
Uh-huh.
small town called Autumnboro that like everybody loves the fall, but
Yeah.
like what about the other seasons? What do we do during the spring at pumpkin everything? But
Yeah. They change it over to like, I don't know, what's a spring food? I'm trying to think.
just beautiful
Flowers
bouquets of
everything or something.
flowers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ho, ho, ho! We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies Patreon.
Do you love Hallmarkies podcast, especially at Christmas?
Do you enjoy the holiday previews, recaps, interviews, and bonus episodes?
If the answer is yes, please consider supporting the Hallmarkies Patreon. We need your help to do what we do both during the Christmas season and all year round.
But not only do you help a podcast led by strong, independent women by becoming a Patreon, you get to become a part of the Hallmarkies family.
Starting at only $2 a month as a patron, you will have access to our Facebook Patreon group where we talk about the movies, shows, and more all year.
We also have many monthly patron watch alongs with guests like Lacey Chabert, Natalie Hall, Paul Campbell, Mary Lou Henner, and more, giving their behind the scenes details of their films.
As a patron, you also have the chance to provide input into the podcast and even join us at different tiers.
So this Christmas season, spread some cheer to the Hallmarkies Patreon and become a member today. You won't regret it.
Go to patreon.com/hallmarkies to learn more.
That's patreon.com/Hallmarkies.
What annoyed me more, I was fine with all of that, the second chance romance, everything, but I thought, first of all, her reason for why she got upset with him and left was pretty stupid. The fact he wouldn't take her to prom.
Yeah,
Um, what? Like, I didn't ever go to prom,
I didn't
and
either.
like I can understand being a little bummed out, but like leaving and like was ridiculous. I mean, granted, she's a teenager, so you do stupid stuff when you're a teenager, but still, that was not, I think, a very compelling reason that they
Right.
gave.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then when she gets all huffy at him for the fact that he wants to buy the house and I think turn it into like a B&B or something, because
Yeah.
that's what his mom always
His
wanted.
mom wanted.
And she's all just, how dare you, and everything. And that was an eye roll for me. Because I don't know, I get kind of tired sometimes in these books/movies when characters are so kind of obsessed with material possessions like a house. I understand that it has a sentimental value. That it's important, but it's not as important as people.
Yeah. It's almost like if you change this, then this is the last, in her mind, this is the last reason I have to come back here. So if you take over and change it, then you're taking that away from me. But also at the same time, like you haven't really been back here in years until now.
Yeah.
So, it's like such a selfish, bratty moment.
Hmm. Yeah, that's what I thought so. And not even really having a real discussion about it and seeing that he has sentimental reasons too.
Yeah.
And you're gonna turn us all into condos. I'm like, oh gosh, condos.
Hallmark viewers, we don't do condos,
No.
okay? When we hear that somebody wants to swoop in and make condos, we are up in arms. Condos and malls, okay? We
Yeah.
don't do it.
Well, I always have a little section that I read, and it was hard to find like a really good section. I mean, maybe that shows the weakness a little bit in the writing, that it was all fairly it was more on like serviceable level. There wasn't like a speech or something that really like stood out as, oh, this is juicy and fun.
Yeah.
But this is the one I picked. It says, Kit, I breathed, squinting up at him against the backdrop of a brilliant autumn. Sorry. Kit, I breathed, squinting up at him against the backdrop of a brilliant blue autumn sky. He'd changed so much, the high school boy with the sweet face and the neatly kept dirty blonde hair had been replaced by this more rugged, more lumberjacky model. Kit Parker 3.0. Holy moly.
Kit Parker 3.0.
So and, and I don't know if that description really captures Corey Sevier, but I mean I love him, don't
I
get me
love him
wrong,
too. But
but
yeah.
it's more like Trevor Donovan, I think, this description.
Yeah. For
So
sure. But I mean, I loved seeing Corey in the movie.
oh yeah, I thought he was so swoon worthy in that movie. The way that he kept like looking at her across the room, which is
Yeah.
I love in those kinds of movies, that they like in Jane Austen, they do it all the time. The long lingering look, where they just are like, in real life, it would be super weird to have this guy just like staring at you all day. But in the movies, it's very dreamy.
Oh, I know. They had it in A Kiss Met Christmas too. The guy taking
Yeah.
the pictures like Santa over here. And I'm like, oh, he can't take his eyes off of her. It's her. I love it too. Yeah.
Yeah, it's fun. And I thought they had really good chemistry, and I loved the kiss at the end of the movie. I thought it was really, really, really good.
Yeah, I thought it was sweet. Yeah.
Yeah. It was
It
like
was
swirling around, and I'm like, this is a grown-up kiss. This
it
is a good
was.
kiss. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Two good actors to bring this movie
Yeah.
to life for sure.
Hmm. And the spice level, there's really nothing in this. This is mild.
Yeah.
Yeah, mild. Nothing more, nothing but kissing. The in language, it's very clean. In that sense, it is a natural adaptation for a book to adapt
Yeah.
for
For
Hallmark.
Hallmark.
Hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And the chemistry in the book I thought was okay. I don't know, just they kept letting like really stupid things cause conflict, and so that kind of, I thought, hurt the chemistry a little bit. But because I was kind of picturing Taylor and Corey, that helped a little bit too. So
Yeah.
it was just okay for me.
Yeah. Agree.
Yeah. And then for trope time, you have the second chance romance, the city girl, to the country. You have the grumpy old man, kind of a Scrooge trope, a little bit. Did you see anything else?
I think that was it.
Yeah.
Another thing I noticed is like in the book, the mom is like a TV host. She works on like what CV, what is it channel? The shopping channel. But in
Oh
the
yeah.
movie, she's a realtor. And I'm like, okay, why did we change that? Even though in the movie it made sense for her to be a realtor, I guess. But
Hmm.
yeah, I don't know.
That's true. So what would you give this book 1 to 5 grounds?
For the book, I gave it a 3. I gave it a 3 out of 5.
I agree. I agree. That's what I would give it to. All right. Well, let's do our reading roundup. And like I said, I have books that I read in September and not much in October, but there are a couple. But I'll start. So I actually have a bunch that I listen to on audiobook that every time I go to Disneyland, I like to, well, because I'm usually by myself when I go to Disneyland. And so I like to listen to audiobooks of about animators while I'm waiting in line. And it's just kind of, I think it's sort of fun. And so I did a bunch. And so I'll just talk about them all together. I started out with Somewhere Out There, My Animated Life by Don Bluth. Don Bluth is an animator. And it's kind of funny to listen to his book at D23 and Disneyland because he famously kind of left and took a bunch of artists with him, left Disney, started his own company. And then he went on to animate Secret of Nim and American Tail and All Dogs Go to Heaven, different movies, Anastasia. So that was fun to listen. It's a little cheesy. He has this whole thing where he's like talking to himself in a mirror kind of a thing. And throughout the book, it's a little corny, but I still overall enjoyed learning about his life. Then I listened to The Life and Times of Ward Kimball, Maverick of Disney Animation by Todd James Pierce. And he is one of the 9 old men from that Walt Disney declared as the masters. And so it was very interesting to kind of learn about his life. Then I listened to The Queens of Animation, The Untold Story of the Women Who Transformed the World of Disney and Made Cinematic History by Nathalia Holt. And so this was fascinating because actually the Disney animation was pretty accepting of women and women animators, and particularly the ink and paint departments were almost all women. But there's people like Mary Blair, and so you get to learn about them in this book, and so it was really fun. I enjoyed that very much. And then Miyazaki World, A Life in Art by Susan Jane Napier. And this is about Hayao Miyazaki, who's the famous anime animator. And this one, it was weird because I didn't learn that much about his life. But they had these long sections on each of his movies. And I'm like, I've seen the movies. I know the movies. I don't need to hear your analysis of like the themes and things. I want to learn about Miyazaki. So that was sort of weird. So I wouldn't recommend that one, but the rest I would recommend. I enjoyed. So anyway, that's kind of a
Yay.
fun thing that I like to do when I go to Disneyland.
That sounds so good. That sounds so, yeah, a fun way to just experience waiting in line, you
Yeah,
know?
that's right. Especially D23 because you wait in a lot of lines at D23.
Yeah.
So yeah, if any of y'all are if you're listening, you go to Disneyland or any of the other parks, maybe check that out. There's a whole bunch of books. There's a great book about Walt Disney himself that took me forever to finish it, but so yes, if you are looking for something fun to spice up your time in line, this is a fun way.
He's Johnny.
And he's Darren.
Do you like movies?
Do you like your childhood?
Do you like movies from your childhood?
Do you like podcasts about movies from your childhood?
If you answered yes to one or all those questions, then you might enjoy Nostalgia Cast. It's a podcast about movies from your childhood.
So if you're nostalgic for nostalgia, then you might like Nostalgia Cast. See, that's the name of our podcast, Nostalgia Cast.
Yeah, I think they got that.
Should we sign off?
Let's do it. I'm Johnny.
And he's Darren.
And
this
is
Nostalgia
Cast. I win.
What about you? What's your first one?
So I'm going to do I'll do three really quickly. So
Okay.
the first three, I wanted to read some like spooky witchy books. So I read Witchful Thinking by Celestine Martin, The Kiss Curse by Aaron Sterling, and The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches by Sangu Mandana. And out of these three, I'd say The Kiss Curse by Aaron Sterling was my least favorite. The previous one to this is called The X Hex. I feel like if you've read The X Hex, there's like this book felt like an exact duplicate of the first one. That's just my personal opinion. So I honestly say skip it. Witchful Thinking is the one that I read the most recent. It's a second chance romance between a witch and a merman set on the Jersey Shore. So I thought that was an interesting setting. I've never read anything there. And yeah, with him being a merman, like kind of their mythology in the book is like if you want something you have to let it go kind of thing. So he's back in town. She doesn't really expect him to stick around, but there's just her and her sisters put like they do a spell to like I don't know, get the things that they want kind of thing. It was a lot of fun and it's definitely like a setup. You can tell that there's like more books coming. I hope so, because you just fall in love with like all of the side characters. But The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches by Sangu Mandana, hands down, is one of my favorites of the year. It's so cozy. It's like equal parts kind of like gothic, like old house, woman bought in to help with these like students or these kids that live there. And they're all three little girls of color that are also witches, but they need to learn how to kind of manage their power, because there's like somebody, I think he's like a social worker coming in to make sure that they can stay together and they can stay where they are. And so they're like, help these girls learn how to manage their power kind of thing. And of course, there's a romance between the Mika, who is like the witch they bring in, and the guy that's like taking care of the girls, and he will go to the ends of the earth to make sure that they stay together, but he's also super grumpy. So it was just so good. So if you're still in the mood for like autumnal reading, and you can come across that one whether at the library or the bookstore, like I loved this book.
It's a great
So,
title.
yeah, it was so fun.
The Very Society of Irregular Witches.
Yes.
Fun. Draws you in. So this one about she's in love with the merman, but how is he able to change back and forth, or
Yeah, so he's like walking around, and he only gets his fin on like when there's a full moon out. Like that's when he really feels the urge to like go out there and swim, and his fin comes back and all of that. So yeah. And the thing that I loved about it is it's not like it's a small town and it's a secret that there are these paranormal creatures. Like everybody knows and everybody's something. So I think that made it just even more kind of like cozy and fun. And the main character, she's a witch, but she's also like a high school history teacher. So it just felt like really normal at the same time. So yeah, I recommend that one too. So
That's
what is yours? What's your next?
So my next is Murder Out of Character by Olivia Matthews. I read this because I interviewed it's Patricia Sargent / Olivia Matthews / she has like 3 pen names. But this is super sweet and very, very kind, and I enjoyed this mystery. It gets to some pretty dark places for Hallmark. There's like a serial killer involved in this, and we had done the first one in this series, and Marve, I think is the character name. This was also good. We liked the first one. And she's good at kind of, building the clues, and the chemistry between Marve and Spencer, the journalist who is helping her, is really well done. And I guess we should talk a little bit about the announcement about Hallmark Publishing. So this is one of the last ones that will cover that we'll talk about, because there's only a couple more books coming out, and I was really, really bummed about that, and because I'd enjoyed a lot of the books, and I just felt bad for all the authors, that especially the ones that had signed deals, or that were anticipating a release and then all of a sudden didn't have it. Like there's one that was going to be a It's a Wonderful Life kind of take, but an LGBTQ story, and I forget the author's name, but that now she's shopping to other people and everything. But so hope for all the best. But that was just a
A
bummer.
bummer.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, stick around, listeners, because Rachel and I have received some book mail from Hallmark
Oh
Publishing
yeah.
and actually received some extra. So we're gonna host a giveaway in the
Yeah.
next couple, weeks during the holiday season. So yeah, we have some Hallmark Pub books
Hmm.
that we want to share with you guys. But yeah, it was super sad. It just kind of felt like it came out of nowhere
Hmm.
that it's ending, but they have such amazing writers. I know all of them will bounce back and they'll find homes for their books, or in the world of Romance Pub they will self-publish them, if push comes to shove, so we'll still get the books. I
Yeah.
think we'll still get
And,
the books.
and yeah, we've talked to so many of the Homework Publishing authors on the podcast. So if anybody is listening, we're here to support, uh, and uh, and we're excited for what's next for you all. I think I didn't realize when we were talking to Bren Donovan last year, I didn't realize how key she was to
Yeah,
everything.
I don't
You
think I realized either. I
that it
didn't
was
either.
like basically a one woman show. That they had a couple other employees, but yeah, it was her idea. It was uh, her passion, and now she's doing her own business, which best of luck to her. But yeah, it was really that was a big blow when she left. So
Yeah,
that's,
but I mean,
that's
like I it's probably got to be exhausting
yeah.
being that one woman show,
Hmm.
and
There's nothing as sure as life has changed, right?
right, right.
Did you get a chance to read Murder Out of Character?
I haven't read it yet. No,
Yeah.
because we were thinking of reading it for this month, but then we
Hmm.
decided on Pumpkin Everything. So
Yeah.
I definitely want to read it because I enjoyed the last one we read by her.
Yeah. Yeah. She's a good writer. She definitely is. Well, do you have anything else you want to talk about?
Okay, so my last, is it two? Okay, I have three more that I'll wrap up really quickly. So, My Halloween Romance by Wendy Dalrymple is like a novella on Kindle Unlimited. It's so sweet. These two, it's kind of a second chance again. They're in their 30s, so I love seeing like characters that aren't like in their early 20s. But the heroine, she lives with her mom. She's moved back to the town, and they have like a leaking roof. So she's like, we need extra money. So the town has this like haunted trail that they do every year for Halloween. So she auditions to be a character in that. And the hero is this guy that like they had a thing for each other in high school, but they ran in different circles. So like they never would have dared. But he owns it. And so it's kind of like workplace, like, he's very hesitant, like technically I'm your boss kind of thing. But it was really fun. I know Halloween is more of a thing over here in the States than anywhere else, but it was a lot. If you're looking for something that's a quick read, I really adored this. And then A Cup of Autumn by
Mhm.
Melissa McClone, another autumnal small town romance, mostly takes place in a coffee shop. So you're getting tons of like pumpkin spice lattes and different pumpkin spice like additions of different coffees. So I personally thought this was cute. And then the last one is actually a Christmas romance, and it's The Fireman's Christmas Wish by Nan Reinhardt. She's a fantastic writer. Thule Publishing, who has quite a few every year, I feel like books that are adapted either by Hallmark or on GAC or on Up TV. Really hope Nan's eventually is on there, but this is the conclusion to her Lang Brothers series. It's Grumpy Sunshine. The heroine actually used to date the hero's brother like 10 years ago. So that's kind of an interesting dynamic, but she's like this really fun, like preschool teacher, and he's like grumpy firefighter, but it's just adorable. So that's The Fireman's Christmas Wish. It is part of a series, but I feel like you can totally read it as a standalone. Trigger warning for death of a parent, and then her mom is dealing with dementia as well. But I thought it was just so lovely. So those are my reads.
Those sound good. You found a lot of good autumn reads.
I wanted us to have some autumn books to talk about on the podcast. What do you have next? I see your Lynn Painter. I see one of your faves.
Yes. I had Accidentally Amy by Lynn Painter. I loved Better Than the Movies, and I've enjoyed every single book that she has done. She meets this guy, and there's a meet cute in the coffee shop where she spills kind of coffee on him, and she ends up they have this sort of she's waiting to get her coffee, and it's taking forever, and so she takes she takes someone else's coffee that's Amy, and then she bumps into this guy, and she thinks her name is Amy, and the next day shows up and he's her new boss, and now he thinks her name's Amy, and there's not a ton going. This is a more of a novella, but it's like the two of them working together, and workplace romance and everything like that. I thought it was cute. It was cute. Yeah. I just love her writing, how she writes characters, and the chemistry that she builds between characters. Better Than the Movies is obviously is my favorite of her books, but this one was fun and light. So
yeah.
And I read Where the Sun Rises by Anna Gomez and Christopher Palaha, obviously for the interview I did with the both of them. And I hadn't read the first one of their work together. So this one I thought did a really good job of still being passionate, but also keeping chaste. So if you're somebody that's important to you, then this would be, I think, a good read. Like, there's definitely times where they're tempted, but they're committed to abstinence and everything. And I appreciate that, because I feel like a lot of times in chaste romance, they act like they're not tempted at all, that they don't want to cross that line. But in this case, no, there were some pretty strong kissing scenes and things like that. But they'd made that commitment, and so it is a like mildly faith-based book. But yeah, he's the son of this really wealthy person on the island, and he's like a producer and actor in movies, and she's this surfer. She got in this accident, so her confidence is a little shaken, and they meet and they help each other, and it's kind of about their long distance romance. And I liked the characters. I appreciated it that it still managed to be kind of passionate yet chaste. I thought they did a good job with that.
Okay.
And then last one I read is Curvy Girls Can't Date Bad Boys by Kelsey Stelting. I again had her on the podcast. I've been interviewing a lot of writers, I guess. I was just thinking about that. I had Olivia Matthews, I had Lynn Painter, I've had Christopher Palaha, Anna Gomez, and Kelsey Stelting all on the podcast.
We love writers here on the podcast.
Yes.
So
but I really loved talking to her. I thought that was a very good interview. So she was talking up all the different ones. I'd read 3 of them, but I hadn't read this one. And I've really enjoyed this series. I think she does a very good job of just using the curvy girl thing kind of as a hook to get you in. And then she actually has like really fun, good stories and good romances and good characters and stuff. And so it's just kind of incidental that they have to be curvy girls. It's just a way to kind of sell the book, but it's all about the stories. And in this one, you have a character whose father is basically kind of making her agree to an arranged marriage, which is maybe a little bit of a stretch for 2022, but nevertheless, he's from like India or Pakistan or someplace like that, and so he wants her to set her up with this guy, and she's always kind of gone along with it because she just wasn't confident enough. But then she meets this guy who's the bad boy, I guess, like got tattoos, and he's a little bit older, and she's kind of fascinated, and turns out he's a cinnamon roll. He's a super sweet guy, even though he has the tattoos and stuff. And so she falls for him, and then there becomes this problem because her father is counting on her marrying this guy. And so I enjoyed it. I thought it was a fun entry. Maybe not my favorite of the 4 that I've read, but still, I just really enjoy her writing, and I think she does characters very well.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that sounds
For
good.
YA. So there we go. That is everything that I read in September and October.
It's been a good month.
I think
Well,
so.
good past couple months.
Yeah, 2 months. Well, let us know if you're listening what you've been reading. We would love to hear. And if you've read The Pumpkin Everything, it is in Kindle Unlimited. So if you have that service, then you can read it for free. So why not?
Yes. And we will be reading. So I think it's November 19th, I think. There is a Hallmark premiere in November, and we are reading yet again the book version of it. The book is Long Lost Christmas by Joan Kilby. Again, like we kind of mentioned earlier, Thule Publishing has a lot of adaptations, and this is a Thule Publishing book. So
Yeah.
join us, read with us. We'd love to have you read the book and watch the movie, talk about both.
That's going to be fun. I'm excited.
Yeah.
So yeah, let us know what you've been reading, and you can find both of us on Goodreads. So we'd love to connect with you that way. And Bree, how can people find you and your podcasts?
I'm on Instagram at free.unabashedly, and I can be found on the Categorically Romance podcast.
Yeah, and you can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all over social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. So check that out. Also, make sure you're following the podcast at Hallmarkies Pod and Hallmarkies Podcast, all over social media. And if you are listening on iTunes to either of our podcasts, please give us your 5-star reviews and recommendations. We really, really appreciate that, especially during this holiday season where people are looking for coverage. It helps them to be able to find us. So please take a second and do that. It really helps us out. And if you're listening on YouTube, please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. We appreciate that so much. We also have our patron group, which is a lot of fun. We talked to a lot of writers in patron watch alongs. And so please take a look at that. And also check out our merch store where we have lots of fun new festive designs. So take a look at that. And thanks so much, Bree. And we'll talk to y'all later. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody.